G'day and welcome back to the channel on the fight against the FAA's proposed new rules. But before I get into that, I have to thank the people who have contributed to my daughter's campaign. As you will all know, she has stage 4 cancer, and you people have made such a huge difference to her outlook and our own. Fantastic. I thank each and every one of you, and I'm just totally blown away. Blown away. I don't have words. Doesn't often happen, I don't have words, but there you go. But now, on with the issue at hand. This whole issue of the FAA and their proposed new rules, and I've been doing a lot of work. I've been swatting. I haven't spent so much time swatting since I was studying for my engineering exams, and that's going back a long time. So what have I found? Well, it won't surprise you to learn that the FAA haven't sent me a copy of their comprehensive peer-reviewed risk assessment, because they don't have one, I'm pretty sure. Now, someone out there may wish to make an official information request for a copy of that document. In fact, I'd recommend everybody makes an official request for the independently peer-reviewed comprehensive risk assessment that has been used to justify the rather dramatic changes in the regulation of unmanned aerial systems in the USA. Please do. If they get enough of these requests, they'll realise where they've slipped up. But now, I've got to look at the whole thing. This is just one of many videos, as I've said. There's so much stuff to go through. I'm not going to create a video that is 24 hours long because everyone would fall asleep. But first of all, I think there are two goals to this proposed regulation on the part of the FAA. One of them is safety, and we've already seen that is a straw man. There is no safety issue really, because show me the bodies. That's what I said. Show me the bodies. There are no bodies. Show me the severe injuries. There are no severe injuries. Safety is not an issue. It is a perception. It is an illusion created by the media. And a lot of powerful companies are using that illusion to get rules proposed which are unreasonably restrictive. So again, that's where calling for a risk assessment comes in. We need the justification for the safety aspect. Now, security. This is the other side of it. They want security because they're worried about these drones, and people in the streets are worried about their privacy, and there's all the things, dropping drugs into prisons and things. And again, this is an illusion. The media loves to cite these few incidents when they occur, but there's no coverage of the fact that people smuggle contraband into prisons through other methods. There are plenty of prosecutions of prison staff for smuggling contraband into prisons, but we just don't see that in the media anymore because it's so commonplace it doesn't merit a headline. So if we actually look at the real figures for drone incidents against the figures from other incidents, drones are not a security issue, really. They are not. We have cameras like the Nikon P1000 or P900, which are far more of an issue for security. We have people being prosecuted every day for filming up women's skirts with smartphones, invading their privacy in a very undesirable way. Yet we don't see headlines touting that, but we will see a headline when someone flies a drone near a house. So it's all perception, and we need to change the perception in the minds of the public. It's one of the strategies I'm working on right now. But I read through the Administrative Procedure Act, which is the act of the US government, which defines how new rules are made. There's a section there about rulemaking, and I looked at it, and it's very, very light. There is not a lot of rules around making rules. It's basically go to it, boys. However, more investigation throughout the fact that there is an Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs in the US government, and its responsibility is to oversee the rulemaking process by government agencies. And that's a very interesting aspect of this whole thing, because I think that we can call them on this. We can call the FAA on this, because I found a document from the Office of Information, or what should we call it? I think it's called OIRA. I found a document from them, and it goes into great lengths and repeatedly mentions risk assessments. It says regulatory actions are based on two distinct elements: risk assessment and risk management. Now, in the case of the FAA, we don't have the risk assessment, so how can they make regulation and rules if there's no risk assessment? They haven't quantified or qualified the nature of the risk. So how can you manage it? Anyway, I found a document called Risk Assessment in the Federal Government. And it says that the regulation policy, they'd have to look at regulatory impact, and they have to use sound science. Now, I've seen no sound science in the FAA's proposed rule. Where's the science? The science would involve the risk assessment. The science would involve analysing the data to date and coming up with conclusions from it. But there's no data analysis because all the data points to the fact that we don't have a problem. Yes, there's reports in the Daily Mail of aircraft and drones coming in close proximity, but show me the bodies. Show me the downed aircraft. 10 years, drones have been a thing. Not one downed aircraft, not one dead body. So this is why we don't have a risk assessment from the FAA, because it would not prove their case. A scientific risk assessment would disprove their case for more regulation. Anyway, the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, it looks at a number of things. It says, is the rule that's being proposed based on the best available peer-reviewed science? Well, in the case of the FAA's proposed rules, absolutely not. I've seen no evidence of any science, let alone peer-reviewed science. It also says, is the risk analysis transparent and appropriately conducted? My answer is, what risk analysis? There is no risk analysis. It also says, are regulatory alternatives considered? And no, I don't think they are. There are a number of ways that the perceived risk could be managed far better than as outlined in this proposed new rule. So they're violating the guidelines of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs. And I must admit, these are only guidelines. These are not rules themselves. They are guidelines. They're supposed to guide government agencies in the making of new rules. But so far, the FAA has been in flagrant conflict with all the guidelines that I came across. It also says agencies shall employ the best reasonably obtainable information to assess risks to health, safety and the environment. Well, there's no information in the NPRM that the FAA has produced because the information would work against their case. So they just ignored it. Also, it says characterisations of risks and changes in the nature of risks shall be both qualitatively and quantitatively consistent with the available data. And again, what available data? They have ignored the reality of the situation and come up only with speculations. That's not data. That's not relevant data. To say, oh, we will need this. Well, what about the history? Look at the history. That gives you an indication of the future. You plot your trends, your analysis. Even if there were 1,000 times more deaths as a result of recreational multi-rotor use tomorrow as there were in the last 10 years, there'd still be zero, wouldn't there? And this is it. Also, peer review of risk assessments can ensure that the highest professional standards are maintained. Peer review, what risk assessment? Again, risk assessment is mentioned so often in this document, which is titled Regulatory Policy, the US Perspective. But there's no risk assessment from the FAA. So, yeah. This document also says, in choosing among alternative approaches to reducing risk, agencies should seek to offer the greatest net improvement in total societal welfare, accounting for a broad range of relevant social and economic considerations, such as equity, quality of life, individual preferences, and the magnitude and distribution of benefits and costs. Well, I think the NPRM fails on that dramatically. It completely sidelines an entire segment of our community, which are the people who enjoy flying model aircraft. And who enjoy building model aircraft, and the educators who use model aircraft and drones as part of their STEM programs. Because remember, under these proposed regulations, you won't be able to build your own models unless you want to fly them in a little grassy field miles from anywhere, and those grassy fields will eventually disappear. So this is basically signing the death knell of that element of the STEM and STEAM programs that are so essential to educating the young people of America. Yeah, it's there are a lot of the more I investigate this, the more I see avenues for challenging what the FAA is trying to get through. And some people have said, I've got a lot of people saying, oh, they won't listen to you. You're not even a US citizen. Why would they listen to you? Well, I would say to people who ask that question, go and look at the videos I linked in my last video on the subject, covering my activities building my own cruise missile in my garage. The US government certainly paid attention to me then. They paid a lot of attention to me then. I am a known, I'm a known actor on this stage. And if I speak, I'm pretty sure they're going to listen. They may choose to discount what I have to say, but they will listen because past experience shows that I know what I'm talking about. I predicted the security threat that homemade drones would pose. So I was 18 years ahead of them. They need to listen to me because I'm still 18 years ahead of the people who are supposedly, eventually one day, going to make a risk assessment on this. But moving on, I'm working very hard to come up with ways we can challenge this on, basically, first of all, they're infringing the guidelines for rulemaking by not having the risk analysis. They are compromising the technology, the future technological development activities within the USA by ankle-tapping STEM and STEAM. And the thing is, if we look at what's happened, that the hobby or the drone market, the commercial side of it, has come from the hobby. So if you kill the hobby, you're going to have massive stagnation in your technological development in this area. The amateurs work unpaid and very hard because they enjoy it. And then the fruits of their labours are harnessed by commercial operators who then turn them into money. So if you take away the amateurs, there's no fruit coming through. The vine will atrophy and die, and I don't think they realise that. And this comes down to the total economic considerations. This is an economically counterproductive measure, and I'm going to do more investigation on that because I think that's a good avenue to follow. But back to whether I'll be listened to or not. Well, frankly, I don't care. I don't care if the US government doesn't listen because they're not going to be my key target in this. We can't win this battle by appealing to the FAA because they've already made their minds up. That's why the rule is there, and they have to consult, but they don't have to listen. And we've seen, as with the revoking of Section 336, they'll accept all the submissions you want to give them and ignore them. That's what they did with Section 336. Their mind is made up. And we have some very large commercial entities involved in this whole process. We've got the likes of Amazon and Google and DHL and UPS, all of who see this as a gold mine. Getting hold of this airspace that we currently occupy is a gold mine to them. It enables them to turn air into gold. It's even better than turning silver into gold or lead into gold. It's the new alchemist is the drone company, so they think. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to do another video on what I see being the future of drone deliveries. But we have to realise that these organisations are incredibly powerful, incredibly rich. They've got some massive lobbying power. So even appealing to your member of Congress, your senator, or whatever, your parliamentary representative, that's not going to have much of an effect because their pockets, some of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but I'm pretty sure some of them will have their pockets lined by lobbyists who will convince them in small denomination notes that it is better to support the industry than the hobby. And that if they support the industry, there are huge payoffs to them and their state or the people who voted them in and the nation as a whole, which we can see is not necessarily going to be true. So those people, it doesn't matter what we present to them. I can present them a huge basket of facts and they'll just basically ignore it. So the only people we can have who can make a difference, the people we have to have on our side are the public. Yep, the same public that despise drones, that hate drones because the media has drummed it into their heads that drones are dangerous, drones are going to invade their privacy, and drones are evil incarnate, right? So how do we turn those people around? My goodness, this sounds like an impossible task, doesn't it? But it's not. It's not. It's been my experience that the public are pretty easily swayed in many cases. I mean, just look at how quickly they got swayed against drones by a few ill-informed media commentators and news stories. And I think it's time that we swung the pendulum back. And that's where I see my own personal efforts being, hopefully, the most productive. Now, what the public feels is that drones are dangerous. They don't want drones over their heads. Well, they're probably not aware that this new proposed regulation will fill the sky with drones, but it won't be our drones. It won't be the little tiny recreational drones that are relatively harmless. It'll be the great, big, huge commercial drones carrying kilograms or many, many pounds of payload. And if they fall on your head, they're going to kill you, right? And they're noisier and they are more obtrusive. So if the public don't like drones, they will hate commercial drones, but they don't realise that this is actually going to fill the skies with commercial drones. It opens the doors for commercial drone operators. And in theory, I say in theory because I don't think it's going to happen, the skies will be filled with large drones carrying UPS, DHL, Google, Amazon labels all over the side of them. Does the public really want that? I don't think they do. So we need to inform them that if these rules go through, that's what they may end up with. There's also another issue of public safety, which I'm keeping close to my chest at the moment. I don't want to let the potential adversaries we have be fully aware of what I'm going to roll out because it gives them opportunity to create a defence to it and to change their tack somewhat. But I think I have a pretty ironclad way of getting the public involved in this and getting them very, very concerned about their own safety in respect to these new regulations. These new regulations will make the skies far more dangerous than they are now. Orders of magnitude more dangerous. There haven't been any deaths to date, but there will be deaths, and there could be thousands of deaths if certain things happen in the wake of these new regulations, and that's unacceptable. But because they haven't done a risk analysis, they don't know that, or they probably know it, but they just don't want us to know it. But it's not hard to work out how this would play out. So I'm going to present that not to the FAA, not to the politicians, but to the public. I'm going to present the public with a case which they can look at and say, oh my God, I most certainly do not want this happening. And if it means that I have to voice my outrage at these proposed rule changes, I will do so. Now, we are small in number. In the USA, a couple of 100,000 at the AMA, and probably as many again independent model flyers. They reckon there's 1.5 million drones in the USA, but most people don't give a damn until it's too late. So we'd be lucky to recruit 100,000 people from that collective to come with us. But the public at large, they're much bigger. There's how many? Over 300 million people in the USA. I don't know, 350, 360. I haven't even checked. I didn't count them. I haven't got enough fingers. But there are so many people in the USA. If we can get just half of them saying, unacceptable, too much risk associated with this, then we can get this proposed rule thrown out. We can get it thrown out on the grounds of safety. And they're claiming they're going to make the skies safe. We discredit them, the FAA, and say, no, you're going to make them dangerous. Yeah, and you don't have a risk assessment to back up what you're claiming, so take your rule away. Take it away. Because under the regulations, you must have produced alternative options as well. But I don't see any alternatives here. And then we need to just point out that they haven't complied with the guidelines for rulemaking, which means that this points to the whole rulemaking process. All these rules are being developed not for the benefit of the public or for the safety and security of the nation. They're being developed for people who want to make a lot of money. And I think that although capitalism is a big thing in the USA, I think most people would put safety and security above companies like Google, Amazon, DHL making more money. So we need to educate the public. Now, I'm going to do my best to do that through the mainstream media. The mainstream media have been our foes to date, but we have to appreciate that the mainstream media, like all businesses, are looking to make money. And it's much easier to make money out of a story that headlines with thousands almost killed when drone misses airliner than a headline that says family enjoys flying drone in the summer sun. Okay, so they go with the stories that, everything is clickbait today. Everything, except the title to my video, is clickbait today. And the mainstream media know that. They need to engage in this kind of sensationalist reporting to survive, because it's a cutthroat market out there in the media. So we need to provide them with an angle that will encourage them to put our side of the story. And honestly, I think my perspective on this is a huge angle, and they will clickbait the hell out of it. They will sensationalize it to hell and back, because it is a really large safety issue that could cost thousands of lives if these proposed rules go ahead. So that's where I'm coming from at the moment. As I say, I'll be doing a video shortly which helps you make your submission, because it is still ultra important that everybody makes a submission. The weight of numbers is important. But as I say, there are a number of things not to do because they've already thought ahead and they can just dismiss your submission. No, we've already dealt with that. That's already, that's been dealt with in the thing. Because in one of the things is, I think I said that there are people saying, if we don't have internet, we can't fly. But the reality is that there is a form of operation, the limited operation, is it limited? No, it's the standard operation, where as long as your aircraft is broadcasting its ID, you don't actually need an internet connection. So you could fly in areas where there's no internet connection. So if you're saying, this is no good because you can't fly without internet, they can say, no, you can, see, we've taken care of that. Or you could fly in a grassy field. There you go, dismissed. And so they'll discount that. So, and also don't make anonymous submissions, because anything that's anonymous will be discounted. You've got to put your name to it. You've got to have the testicular fortitude to man up and put your name to what you say. If you don't, then what you say is worth nothing. And I got to agree with that. I discount anonymous things quite often, because people need to have a bit of courage. If you really believe it, then stand behind it. Don't hide behind anonymity. But there you go, that's my thoughts to date. As you can see, I'm doing a lot of work from multiple directions. See whether they're complying with the guidelines, with the rules themselves when they make these rules, and whether there are holes in their arguments, whether they've done their homework properly. And finally, and probably most importantly, is recruiting the public to be on our side. And I see that's where we get the real mileage. If 200 million Americans say, we're not happy with this, then the politicians will have to listen, or they will not be voted back in. And the FAA has to listen, because they are the servants of the people. And they forget that. Most government departments forget that quite quickly, but that can be reinforced in their minds with enough public outrage. And so my job is to create outrage, and I will do that. I will create the public outrage necessary to get this NPRM kicked right back to where it belongs, which is in the waste paper bin at the FAA office. There you go. Stick with me. This is going to be a long journey. We've still got, remember, don't worry, you've got until March 2nd to get your submission in, so I will provide you more information on things. Now, the AMA have got a sort of a template on their website. I think that's really, it's kind of a cop-out, because all those templates will be put in one file. And yeah, we had that many saying this. Rather than all people having their individual say, it's so easy just to copy and paste and put your name on the bottom and email it off. It really doesn't show a level of commitment to this, does it? I think I'll give you guidelines, but I want you to word your own submission. Your submission has to be unique, has to be different to all the others. Otherwise, it'll be classified in a little bin with all the other 300,000 copies of the one email. We've got to make the most impact, and that means everyone has to have their own unique say. So there you go. Thank you for watching. This is a long journey, it's a lot of work, but I'm really enjoying it. And with your support, I think we can prevail, I really do. Now, to the comments section, if you've got something to say, I will be doing my video. It'll probably be a couple of videos down the road where I ask for your support in terms of providing a proxy to speak on your behalf, but I'd rather give you more information about what I'm going to be saying and how I'm going to be doing it before I ask for that. So that becomes fairer, because you don't really know what I'm going to do yet. And if you say, oh, you can speak for me, and it turns out that what I plan to do is not something you agree with, well, then that would be unfair. I would have cheated. So I want to make sure you know exactly what I'm going to do before I ask for your written support. And we'll see what happens from there. In the meantime, keep flying. Keep flying. Enjoy the freedom while you've got it, just in case. And thanks for your support. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It helps, because I can say, look, I represent this many subscribers at least. And that's it. Now, it's windy as hell here in New Zealand, damn it. But that gives me more time to work on this. And I am doing a lot of work on this. Started at 3 o'clock this morning, and I'll be going probably till 9 o'clock tonight. There you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Stick together. We can beat them. Bye for now. Tis but a breeze, I say, but a breeze. There's hardly any wind at all. I don't know what I'm complaining about. Bloody summer. Shit, it's cold too. Ugh.